to Not Your Average Church Girl. No soy tu chica, típica de la iglesia. I'm so excited for all of you all being here. I am Christine Lockridge, the founder and CEO, and I am just so excited because the Lord has blessed us with so many opportunities to gain partnerships and just relationships with other women who are like-minded. And so this coming Saturday, we're excited because we are hosting our second annual Mother's Day luncheon that is free for the community. And that will be here in Utica, New York at the Jewish Community Center from 11 a.m. to 12:30. And so we are going to have different people coming out, mothers giving encouragement to those who may have children with special needs. We also have a representative coming and just sharing information about prenatal care. And then we have other mothers, young and old, just different moms to come and just give some spiritual guidance and support and encouragement along your journey of being a mom. And so I'm excited because today I have Miss Faye with me. Hey, Miss Faye.
Hi, Christine. It's
I'm so
good to be
excited.
here.
Thank you. I'm so excited you're here. It's interesting. I met Miss Faye by altering some of my clothes, and she and I started talking. And she told me about her organization. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's mothers within Not Your Average Church Girl who would really glean from what you share. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to just help us kick this off and share about your nonprofit first.
Thank you, Christine. So, first of all, the name of my nonprofit is Baby Mama Association Incorporated. And we have gotten so many jokes behind that name. But that name was just dropped in my spirit from God above. I remember when I was trying to come up with a name for my organization, that kept coming back and I kept dismissing it because it sounded so stereotype. So
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, I'm not going to do that. But it kept coming back. And I said, I'm just going to go with it. So Baby Mama Association Inc. is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
I just love to tell the story about how the Lord provided for us when we first got started in 2017, because I had only the idea that I wanted to help young women. I worked as a paralegal at Hiscox Legal Aid Society in
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse, New York, and we did a lot of family court appeals and just having a window in my office and being able to look out and see those baby carriages going back and forth down Montgomery Street. I'm sorry, Jefferson Street, and back and forth to DSS. And I'm thinking somebody got to like really reach out to these young ladies and stop the madness, stop the rut,
Mm-hmm.
because they're dependent on the system. And they were still in high school, some of them just out of high school, but it was just so disheartening to me because I know that when I was about that age, I also became an unwed mother. And it was a struggle because
Mm-hmm.
that was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the information that is available now was not available then. So I really struggled and I didn't even know that I could get child support
Mm-hmm.
or help from the government for, assistance from the government. So I kind of struggled with that. And I struggled with a lot of things being a single mom and just not knowing, not having that help. So when I began working for legal aid and I saw that these girls, they have an opportunity to get all kinds of assistance, but in doing that, they lose their self-esteem because it's like they give up their identity. They
Mm-hmm.
give up their dreams. So I wanted to do something about that because I did not get stuck in the system. I
Mm-hmm.
actually did get maybe two checks from DSS in Virginia, but I made up my mind that I wanted to get a job because they were asking me too many questions. And I never liked anybody in my bank account. So
Right.
I was like, you know what? None of your business. Keep your money. I'm going to get me a job. So that's what I did. But it was still a struggle. But either way, I knew the struggles of single parenthood and I wanted to ease the pain for these young women. And I wanted them to know that their self-worth does not have to diminish because they have had a baby out of wedlock and they're now stuck in the system and their self-esteem is just, ooh, it was just hard to watch. But anyway, so I just started thinking of ways that I could reach out to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about a nonprofit because I worked for a nonprofit. It was a legal aid. And I said, well, I can start a nonprofit that will specifically help these women with their self-esteem, with their dreams, and just to accomplish going back to school or starting a business, whatever it is that they have, they're capable of doing. So that's what I did. And I started I was sharing my idea with everybody that would listen. And in doing so, they would give me ideas. Well, hey, you could do this. Have you ever thought about that? So they were dropping my name and I didn't even know it. And so I got a
Wow.
phone call one day, and the phone call was, oh, we're having a workshop. And we heard somebody gave us your name that you wanted to, you had an organization. They thought I was already an organization. I was just an idea. And they said, we're going to send you the questionnaire and you can apply to attend this workshop for free. And you get a grant at the end, a $5,000 grant.
Wow.
So I'm arguing with the lady. Hey, I just have an idea. I'm not even a nonprofit. I can't even answer half of these questions on the questionnaire because they don't apply to me. She said, well, just put your name on it and fill out what you can. I said, but listen, I don't have an organization. And so something inside of me said, just fill it out and turn it in. And I did that. They accepted me in the program. And just like they said, at the end of the workshop, they gave us a $5,000 grant. And I used that money to start. By the end of the program, I had the name and I started it with the monies that they gave me. I started it. I bought equipment. I think I even bought sewing machines and laptops with that money, and I used it to get my 501c3, and I just started a business. We became a bona fide, incorporated, registered with the state of New York, Baby Mama Association Incorporated, and we have been that way ever since. I make sure I pay my $9.90 fee every year.
Right,
But the
right.
bottom line is God opened those doors, and even after that, there was another workshop after that. And so the second year, we got another $5,000 grant just because somebody gave my name to an organization that was hosting some kind of boot camp. And there I could run. And by that time, I came up with Journey to a Better Life boot camp. I'm trying to develop the organization, become more structured, think about the things that they need. Like, do you want to learn how to sew? Do you know how to use a computer? Do you ever thought about having a business? Do you want to go back to school? And we tried to incorporate sessions in our boot camp that would address all those things. But it's been a challenge because there is so much need, but there's also so many of these young women that really don't want to leave the situation that they're in. They're comfortable and they have become content where they are. So we try to wake up in them a sense of self-respect and self-worth that may have been just killed.
Right,
Killed.
right. That
We
makes
say
sense.
killed
Yeah.
back in the day, but just gone because they have just been beaten down by their circumstances. So, but we're still trying to tweak the organization to fit the needs. So that's one thing about nonprofits is as long as your mission is the same, you can come at it from any angle you want, as long as your mission stays the same, and that is to help these young women experience and pursue a better quality of life other than what they have, or more than what they have, for themselves and their children. So it's been exciting just listening to people's stories, just reaching out and helping, partnering with other organizations that have similar missions. For instance, Not Your Average Church Girl and the other organizations here in Syracuse. We partner with a lot of people just so that we have enough resources to offer to these women that have been caught in a situation that I was there. I'm gonna tell you, I have not been saved all my life. I am a Christian. I am saved and sanctified. I am filled with the Holy Ghost. And even at that, because I didn't get saved until after I had, actually a couple of months before I had my first child. So I have developed a relationship with the Lord that what he has in me makes me hungry to help people. I've always
Right.
been a helper. So I don't want, when I experience bad things, I don't want anybody else to experience it. So I'm
Mhm.
always thinking, how can I help somebody else not to fall in this pit hole? You know, how can I help somebody else not to experience this discomfort or not be treated this way?
Mhm.
So I'm always looking out for the underdog to see what I can
Right.
do to advocate for them. So, and that's what I do, and that's what BMA does, and that's all I want to do. I want to
Mhm.
be able to share and make people's lives, especially young women, better because that is a very vulnerable people group.
Right.
Young women with children, they are so exploited, so taken advantage of, and
Mhm.
people they have very few advocates because they won't reach out because of embarrassment. You
Mhm.
know, oh, somebody fooled me, somebody, took my money, somebody, well, what did you do? Well, I gave them my social security number or whatever. They don't want to expose themselves in that way, because the first thing they're going to think that people think is that, what a stupid, what are you, what were you, you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
to avoid that, they stay quiet and they learn everything the hard way. I was there, I know. And I didn't know what I didn't know until I made so many mistakes. That's how I learned. I wish that there had been something or somebody like BMA, like organizations like BMA, that could reach out to young women and give them a safe space to express their struggles so that they could get help before they sunk too low. I was fortunate, but there was a time where I was so depressed that I could not
Mhm.
even function. All I did was wake up and zombie through the day and then go to bed. And that was a phase that I went through in my 20s that I will never forget. And even thinking about it now, even I could feel like a cry coming on because it was
Mhm.
such a dark place. It was such a dark place. And I didn't know how to reach out. I couldn't even explain to you what was going on. And I didn't even know what I was sad about. All I knew was I was depressed. And I learned years later that it was just postpartum depression. I didn't know
Mhm.
anything about that. Nobody told me about that. So that's the kind of thing that I look out for as well in young women that have had children. You know, I don't know if
Mhm.
anybody's telling them, but guess what? I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going to tell you. You know what you're experiencing right now? It's called postpartum depression. You don't have mental illness. There's nothing wrong with you. You're going to
Mhm.
get through this. You know, I got through it, and I give them my testimony. I could talk all day, Christine. I'm gonna tell you
This is so
because
good. And you know what? I love the fact that you shared your testimony of how you created the organization. You had an idea, you were telling people what you wanted to do, and then this blessing just falls in your lap. And you have this opportunity to go to this workshop to share what you do and then get this grant. And one of the things that I tell the women of Not Your Average Church Girls, when God tells you to do something, do it. And when you do it,
do
He
it.
will provide the way. And so by you just sharing your testimony, you didn't even know it, but that's something I tell them all the time. And it's true. When you have something in your heart to do it and it's God led, He is going to make the provision. And then when you went on to say the next year, you received another grant and everything that you
Mhm.
needed to support those moms you had. And so I commend you for sharing. You know, that's a big thing. Word of mouth, sharing what the Lord put in
Yes,
your heart. And the right people
yes,
will hear to be able to be the blessing and put your name in the room. So one, I want to say thank you for that. And then also I like the fact that you mentioned, when you had your child, you weren't saved. And it was years ago, so it was a different stigma. Now it's not as much, and so I appreciate your transparency because you went through another level, I'm sure, of criticism that than others nowadays. And so I'm glad that you shared that. If you wouldn't mind, could you just share? I mean, you already started to, and I love you. Like you said, you could talk for days, but could you share a little bit more with moms who might be struggling with their spirituality or struggling with their self-esteem because maybe they had a child unwed, or maybe because they had a child and now they're divorced? Everyone has a different circumstance. And so whatever the Lord just puts on your heart to share, if you could just share any encouragement to the single moms that are listening today.
absolutely. I One thing I want to say is I do regret working a lot because children in those formative years need their mother. There was provision, but I just didn't know. I didn't know I could get a check every month, and when I did get a check every month, I didn't know how invasive they could be. In that that exchange. Okay, we'll give you this check, but you got to tell us every dime you
Right.
make. You got to let us know, get into all of your business. And I wasn't raised that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, no, I mean, I am an able-bodied young woman and I can work for a living. And I was actually in an apprenticeship program at NASA at the time. And I would get DSS check, and then during the years of during the months of going to school in that apprenticeship program, they would pay me. So DSS is so slow until I was getting paid and getting DSS, and then the other months I wasn't getting anything because they were slow with theirs. So that was not in sync, and that was one of the things that frustrated me with the system. So I decided that I was going to just quit the apprenticeship program, which I probably should have never done. I was in the apprenticeship program for um, to be an electronic engineer, and
Wow.
gave that up because I wanted to just make a living and take care of that boy because he deserved better, and it was too much of a struggle to deal with the system. So I got a full-time job. Out of that came a full-time job because I had learned that there were other contractors for NASA that were hiring for electronic fabrication technicians. So I jumped on that bandwagon, and it was good money back in the 70s
Mm-hmm.
because nobody was making. I can't even remember how much it was, but I know I was bringing home at least $600 every week, and that was not heard of back in those
Mm-hmm.
days. So I thank God for the provision, but I had no discipline. I didn't know how to manage my money. It was my first full-time job, and I had never had to pay any bills before.
Mm.
So the missing element in my coming into adulthood so early and so abruptly was learning how to manage my money, to save, to pay my bills. And so that turned my world upside down. All of a sudden, I had bad credit, and now I
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything. And I did get an opportunity to buy a car before it went totally south.
Mm-hmm.
So I did know what it was to have a car payment, and then I had an accident. And I
Oh.
didn't know that my insurance would take care of that. I just so much that I didn't know,
Wow.
because I was so young. And so I just gave up the car. They towed it away and I never heard about it again. I don't know
Wow.
what happened. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So educate yourself. There's no excuse nowadays. I think that if young women would find a person that they can really confide in, a person in your church, a teacher at your school, or somebody that you really know um, has shown you support and will show you support and won't share your embarrassing moments and situations, and find that person and ask them questions about life. Why do you have to have insurance? And how much insurance should I get? Ask the right questions. And that's one thing that got me ahead, was that I have always been a person to ask a zillion questions. I don't know why, but I've always been curious about everything. I want to know how everything is made. I want to know how.
Miss Faye, do you hear a crackling sound? I'm sorry.
Yes.
You do? Okay. Let's pause and re-log in and do a part two because you're saying some good stuff and I don't want the women to miss it.
Okay.
Okay.
So how do I just
Yep.
leave, or
Log off.
you?
We'll log right back in.